What's up, folks? Khalid Bay. Global struggles having a negative impact at home. Trying circumstances becoming even more challenging for people, particularly relative to cost of living, increases in prices in the grocery store and the gas pump. Meanwhile, employment and underemployment still being a major issue for many Americans. What can we do to improve our situations even in struggling times? We got some ideas for you today. Let's get to it. Let's talk. Let's talk, Khalid Bay.
Hey, Rob, Romeo here again.
And yeah, it's been a while, Rob.
Yeah, no, I got to get down south for several weeks and enjoy that. But I do my work there too, so it's good.
Yeah.
We could have done a podcast in there.
We
could have and should have. Next time we are.
All right, yeah. Next time, no stall.
No stall.
Yeah, it's been a little busy. A little interesting weather in Syracuse and in other places, but
yeah, it's been up and down spring, mostly down.
yeah, mostly down. Yeah, but the idea of up and down weather is relative when you consider the temperature in the U.S. with people struggling financially, particularly issues with unemployment.
Yeah.
And
well, what's the unemployment rate? It's got to be over 4 now, 4 point something.
Yeah.
And I think there's some people leaving the job market recently, but and then I think that there's some discussion about, not discussion, but a fact and reality that AI is coming into fruition a little bit more, and it's in some of the jobs. Some of the reports are these college-educated grads in their 20s and early 20s are having the toughest time finding in recent memory, like in the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, it's tough. Even I think about my kids and other young people I know, whether they are high school age or in their 20s, even in their 30s. It's tough right now in the job market to find even what was considered more simple jobs in the past. They're hard to come by right now.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time.
Well, I think they've been growing in the trades. You see advertising, and I think in a lot of communities that they have training programs, and so that's an alternative that makes sense because they're providing good, steady paying jobs with a career, because you can move on in that and take that anywhere you go.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's a positive alternative, but just the traditional job market postgraduate is they got to deal with the change of the economy and the changes what's going on nationwide, but also the AI revolution, so to speak.
Well, it's funny about the AI. I have a developing opinion about the AI revolution. And there's a saying, and maybe I'm one of the only people who say it. I don't think so. That truth is relative sometimes. And I think there's a difference between AI really revolutionizing the game, of course, which it is, and AI actually taking over, as many either assume or fear that it might. And I say this for one reason: AI is a human product whose steering is ultimately controlled by its creators, and so
we hope.
Yeah, well, certainly right now.
Yeah.
And my experience with AI, not to go on this AI trip, is that AI is only capable of doing what you teach it to do. Its talent is assessment and analytics, but it doesn't create. This is why people get into trouble trying to use AI for creation. The one lawyer who got disbarred, students who get caught plagiarism, those kind of things, because AI gets things wrong.
If we look at it as a tool, it can be, very effective and very helpful to, the human race.
Right.
But if we look at it as something where it programs itself and it's able to, generate its own path forward.
Now you're getting into a problem.
Now we got problems. So that's where I think the next thing along those lines is government, especially the federal government, has to have committee meetings and hearings and discussions and bring in the tech people, bring in the people that create this, and try to form some kind of regulatory system. We hate regulation, or it's a bad word, blah, blah, blah. But, without it, you have chaos.
Yeah.
You have to have some regulation. Maybe we have to have a new, start with a committee and get to a commission and get to a department. It's got to be something that there's some guardrails around, and there's consequences to go outside the guardrails.
It's so tough though, because people are so confined in their idea of what's true.
Yeah.
Right. Truth is only true within the framework that creates it.
Yeah.
Anybody who exists outside their framework is not true for them, right? And so therein lies the struggle with academia, with philosophy and the like, is you get this kind of tug of war, and if you get a lot of people of similar thinking, which is often the case, even though they may have the appearance of variety, they end up in the same box.
And then that's going to be the truth for everybody.
Yeah, it locks everybody out.
Yeah.
Anybody,
we have to be careful about, getting to the sources of truth and understanding that there's a lot of misinformation that comes out that can manipulate,
even unintended, right?
Manipulate minds and drive things in a bad direction. So I think that when you put all the marketplace of ideas, we'll call it, together, and kind of let it find the truth that come out of that through debate and through events and so forth. I think that's if we let that grow in that direction, that's the best we can do, best we can hope for. We have to come up with some solutions. The unemployment is rising. Where do you stand? What do you think? Where can we tee off on this?
I always think that the responsibility falls on government's shaping of the environment, right? Not we can't have everybody working in public sector, right? But I think government has to be proactive, not only in the creation of opportunities where services are needed, but in the attraction of business. Certainly my experience, and Rob, you can tell me if it's been different for you, is that our government never really appeared to be on offense here in Syracuse, as an example, to attract businesses that the market support. It kind of waits to see who asks.
Yeah, and there's a pushback on government being involved in business, and there's a business community that says government should stay out of business and stay out of the way. But I think that you have to have a real give and take, and it has to be a dynamic relationship where there's a recognition that government services are needed, and when they say government services are needed, this gets to the question. You have to have individuals staffing those government services.
Yeah.
So I'm of the opinion, kind of like, that one of the good things that came out of the Kennedy administration was like the Peace Corps. One of the things that they do in other countries is like have a military, but we have to join the army for a certain amount of years. But if it's something along those lines that give, almost like, it also comes out of the same idea of the FDR and the New Deal, where unemployment was the thing in the Depression. I mean, that was the number one issue, that when the stock market crashed, no one had jobs and you couldn't feed yourself, couldn't feed your family. But if you had a job, then you get back to dignity. So to have these services that for government work that we pay for, I think there's more of a benefit than just putting someone to work, but it grows society. Then you have people with money in their pocket to go and buy goods and services from other private sector individuals. So I think that's how we can struggle our way out of this, by the right balance, the right dynamic between government services, and when I say that, I mean employment. Instead of DOGE cutting 100,000 people from the USAID, and then people starving overseas and around the world, we hire more people to work for USAID.
Yeah, but the thing is though, it seemed like they keep working with the same pony, right? Every municipal government, state government, federal government is running the same game over and over again. When I think about using Syracuse as the example, and I said this to the previous mayor here, but clearly the logic wasn't received. The majority of persons in Syracuse, as an example, is arguably unemployed, underemployed compared to the working community.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
33% of the population works.
Mm-hmm.
That was the number the last time I checked. So that means a larger portion of it is not working.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to discount retired seniors. You have to discount underage.
Well, if you're talking about
young people,
of the working population, the able-bodied or able, they call it able, whatever it is.
only 33% of them are working.
Only 33% of the people able to work
Are working, right? So that's even less than
Yeah.
right? And so when you consider that, I think there has to be more of an out of the box kind of idea. So when I think about, and the statement I made to the previous mayor, I said take into consideration the median income, and the per capita income rate, particularly per capita income rate. Per capita income rate in Syracuse at the time of the ARPA money was, I think, roughly around 23,000. The median income had went up from 35,000 to 39,000. And I remember saying to him, if you attract business to get people who haven't been working, people who've been chronically unemployed back into the work game, with entry-level positions requiring no real skill set. They train them on the job. They're making that 35 to 39,000. They can ultimately afford to live here, because it's still a buyer's market. And even when you develop with that group in mind, with that, moderate income people in mind, so they can pay the cost of living.
Yeah.
Then you can slowly bring people back, and you can purposefully put a dent in unemployment. But the same thing where they're kind of doing these pie in the sky ideas, and they're losing money in nonprofits and all this training that goes nowhere.
Yeah,
they've been doing since I was little.
If it's for a profit, though, if you're talking about a business hiring people, that is the best. That would be the best solution.
Right.
But how do we do that when you talk to a business owner and say you got to hire 5 people that have no job skills and pay them $35,000 or $40,000 a year?
Here's an example. When you have eds and meds, now see, I tried this under the Minor administration when Ben Walsh was the Deputy Commissioner of Business Development, and I talked to Upstate Krause about who their top vendor was for supply transport. It was Buffalo Hospital Supply.
Okay.
I pitched the idea and talked to Buffalo Hospital Supply about them setting up here light assembly and or manufacturing, and what would be required for them to do that. Everybody was interested, and the additional benefit would have been picking up St. Joe's, who wasn't a client.
Okay.
You're talking about at minimum 40 entry-level positions.
Yeah.
And in that respect, putting a dent in unemployment because the people are coming in, no skill set required, they're trained on. This is what I meant by them going on the offense and pulling businesses here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kind of fit the market.
Yeah. That's it. And I think that on a bigger scale, that's what Micron is hoped to do. A company like that, they should have a job training program. You bring in people without skill sets and bring them into the marketplace, into the workforce.
Yeah, it's a whole lot different making microchips than it is putting something on the assembly belt.
You talk about assembly work.
Yeah.
So there's certain levels. If you get down far enough,
just like JMA, right?
There's going to be something that they can do.
Same thing with JMA Wireless, right? Training on the job for assembly work. Yeah, exactly.
So that's a solution. I like that solution. I think that we got to work with the big companies to talk about that. I love that you had the initiative to find a company to come in and talk about assembly kind of work.
They dropped the ball on that.
And that also leads into another benefit, because we're bringing jobs here as opposed to farming them out to overseas where they can pay a far less salary.
That's right.
It's really not a workable salary.
And you go after for-profit businesses. You don't go after service companies.
Yeah.
You go after for-profit businesses. You provide them a workforce to where they can be competitive, get access to new markets they didn't have access to, and it becomes a win-win. And
I think what you're saying is the most important position in government is economic development director.
Absolutely.
You gotta get it right.
Gotta get the right guy.
We've talked about the cost of living. We've talked about the solutions and issues regarding the unemployment condition right now. When you have, say you're in a different category now, and given the markets and given where we stand with certain like crypto and other avenues of financial industry or financial investments, where do we put our money in a smart, in a secure or conservative way, or even in a even a more aggressive way? What are smart money moves to be made by someone who's working but wants to be able to save and put something ahead for investment?
I'm glad you framed it that way, because I have I'll call it an assessment of both the market, the stock market and the like, and insurance as an insurance salesperson.
Insurance is key.
And both of those are wealthy people's games.
Mm-hmm. But not necessarily. Shouldn't have to be.
So what? It shouldn't have to be, but hit me out. The average performance, good performance, about 7% a year, compound. That's but most of the time they fluctuate between 3.5%. If you're lucky, you might hit 13% S&P 500. But it's about how much you're putting in there. Mm-hmm. So the thing about the stock market, correct me if you think I'm off base here, is you have to have a certain amount of fearlessness when it comes to loss, right? One of the main things you hear about the stock market is you can't pull your money as soon as it goes down, right? But if you only have so much, when it goes down, you don't have much left.
And you're pulling it.
And this is what I mean by it's a wealthy person game, because they can stand to lose a little. Yeah. And by that, when the gains come, they gain big, right? The average person can't do that.
Unless you're also betting on the downside.
That's exactly right. Which is what the wealthy people do, actually. They bet on the downside. Yeah. So, and then when you look at, even in insurance, I have people who contact me all the time, like, I want to get a life insurance policy, I want to borrow against it. But you can't borrow against it unless you put something in it. Yeah. It's just like equity in a home.
Yeah, you got to pay your premiums.
Yeah, you got to pay your premiums. You got to build up enough cash value. Yeah. All right, let's replace cash value for equity, because it's literally the same. Yeah. And so until you've built up enough, there's nothing to borrow.
I think there's so many people that don't understand how insurance works and how you can use that as one of your key like cornerstones for financial success and to grow your wealth. There's real estate. That's one thing to do. Mm-hmm. Buy your properties. Don't sell your property. Keep your property in your asset column. Yeah. Borrow against it when you need it, and you live off that money tax free. But that's one thing. Other people buy and sell. That's okay. But then it's a business. You got to really know what you're doing when you're doing that. But if you buy some one or two good pieces of property, you can pay down the mortgage, and then you'll have that as an asset that you can always draw on tax free. The other one is real estate. Insurance. Mm-hmm. If you get these, like a whole life policy, where you create a cash value in the policy, you can borrow against that. But you have to that takes investment, takes discipline, it takes time. But the return, something about the rule of 7 or something, you're getting like 7% interest, and it's doubling every 7 years. Yeah. Those kinds of investments are bedrock kinds of things outside of the stock market. Yeah, right? Yeah. They're kind of outside the stock market. Then you want to play a little bit in the stock market, then you get into risk aversion. Can you lose it? Okay.
You got to understand it first.
The others tend to grow at a relatively steady rate over time, and people should explore that and understand that as at least let's have some in both of those sectors, real estate and insurance.
I will absolutely first, not second, real estate. To me, the real wealth is in the asset. I'm echoing what you're saying here. And I think real estate is the fastest way to get there. Yeah. For the average person who may be making $30,000, $40,000, give them $80,000 a year, their premiums that they're paying on life insurance, are probably going to be $250 or less, because they can't afford too much more in this increasing cost. $250, let's say And then when they don't understand it, to make it worse, Rob, this has been my experience, they want to pay no more than $100 on a premium a month.
Yeah.
That's only $1,200 a year.
Yeah.
After 10 years, you got probably $6,000-$7,000.
Yeah.
That's it.
Not growing that fast.
No, it's not doing
Because
anything.
you're not putting much in.
By the time you get 70, 80 years old, you might have $40,000.
Yeah.
You know, so but an asset like property, I agree with you 100%. I wouldn't sell it.
No.
Because of the equity.
Yeah.
Right? That equity is accumulating faster because you either paid for it outright or you're paying on it.
Yeah.
And then you leverage that equity.
Yeah, you find when the interest rates are low, you can borrow some against it. It's tax-free money. It's your money, and then you can invest that in something else, or you can pay some bills. Do what you got to do. It definitely is better than having 19% credit cards.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No credit cards.
Those are the worst things that you can get involved.
I would definitely say, just to kind of add this last thing, it's always been my perspective when I talk to people, when I say, the life insurance policy is just one vehicle, but it's a valuable one, right? And if you can you can own as many as you can pay for. And if you can build the value, the key thing is building it at a rapid pace, right? So somebody like Warren Buffett can buy a $500,000 policy, right? TEFRA and DEFRA rules don't allow for him to pay it, full face value in 5 years.
Yeah.
He has to wait until the 5th year and the first day. So if he paid a certain amount of money up until the end of the 4th year, the 5th year, he could pay the balance. And now that money is 100% liquid, 98% of which he can borrow.
Yeah.
So that ability to pay larger premiums increases the cash value faster.
Yeah.
So my logic is, for people who live in moderate situations, your greatest chance for access to a large chunk of value is with home ownership.
Yeah.
Or property ownership.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm sure I'm not misquoting this, but I think that like 90% of all wealth is created through real estate.
Oh, absolutely.
So
most of the wealthy people we know of own real estate.
Created through real estate.
Outside of the tech guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then now you get into another thing, the tech stuff or even crypto or anything like that. To me, look, on all of this stuff, people that are listening or want to get involved or want to think about this, you need to study it. You need to get an expert, some real advice. We're just giving you the highlights and just giving you some food for thought about it. We're talking.
Yeah, we're just trying to push you in the direction where you go do some research, you understand it, figure out how it works, and think outside the box a little bit. Outside of what you normally think in your normal routine.
One of the things that's discouraging in our education system is we don't really have like a real, personal economic or financial course at the high school level.
That's right.
Where you can talk, and I think that would be helpful for another reason too. Is if you could say to someone, look, how much do you need to live? What do you need out of your life? You want a house? You want this? You want car, whatever. How much do you need to survive on that? Let's break it down and show people that show students at that level what it is, and then they can understand how they can attain their goals.
Right.
And they don't have to go thinking about, well, I got to be a multimillionaire to do anything,
right.
Or I have to hit it big in Hollywood or wherever, whatever. And it may get some people away from crime, because they can see, because they can see that there's a future if I just work every day and put away this amount. This is what it's going to add up to. This is how it works.
One of the things I think about when we talk about, and we mentioned this before, Rob, that government in the past pushed to increase minimum wage. You talk about the current mayor of New York during his campaign said he wanted minimum wage to be $30 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we also talked about, or implied, if you will, that it means nothing if the cost of living continues to increase. There has to be some balance.
Yeah, that's right. That inflation's got to be under control.
Yeah.
And in order, otherwise, if cost of living goes up and inflation goes up, then you're not gaining anything. But on the other hand, if you're gonna have businesses pay $30 an hour for a cost of living, so you can have a real, they call it the living wage. It used to be 15, now it's gotten to 20 or whatever. Right. They call that the living wage, which there are small businesses. I think that when they say that, they have to find a way to carve out levels and tiers of what businesses have to pay what. So it's not every business has to pay a minimum wage of $30 an hour. But some businesses, like we're talking about, that you're starting up on, but they have manufacturing. They're getting government subsidies. They're getting grants and everything else to get their business off the ground. Those are the things that you can kind of say. You have to, if you're going to hire, you got to hire at this level. If it's an entry level, no skill job, they got to start out at $30 an hour. But so, I mean, and then the mom and pop shop that just have 2 employees, they could be down at, $10 or $15 an hour to hire somebody.
This is what I think is tough too, to your point, because there's the concern you mentioned earlier, right? The right tends to want more deregulation, and that is because they want their profits uncapped, right?
Right.
And the left want us to be a little bit more careful about leaving people out hungry. And it's as if it's not really understood that the more hungry people you have, the more you're going to be taxed to cover their costs.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like your healthcare system. Unless we give some kind of some form of the ACA and get to universal health care, we're just paying more for the healthcare system.
Right.
Our healthcare, it's not like we're not paying those costs.
Right.
We're paying those costs anyway. So why not do it in an egalitarian way where we have these, universal health or at least subsidized health. Now they just cut off subsidized health because the budget's not passed. People are going to be hurting. This is really coming to a crisis. We're headed towards a financial crisis, let alone other kinds of crises that
I think we're there. When you consider the increase in homelessness, you consider the many people who are on the verge of homelessness and people who are already sleeping on the couches of their family members and the like because they couldn't keep up with costs. They can't feed their kids, the cupboards are bare, right? And this is again our point. Cost is going up. The end of the business, the markets is doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
But that senior living on a fixed income is getting no more money. The dollar's not performing any better.
They're not in the market. I mean, today you're probably losing a little bit in the market right now. There's trillions of dollars being lost in the last couple of weeks because of the oil situation and everything else. But in general, those people are not in the market, and yet they have to still provide for food and shelter, and it's very, very difficult proposition right now.
Yeah, we always talk about how egg prices go up.
Yeah, and without health care, where are we?
Well, think of it, I agree, but think about it this way, people. What causes a business to fail?
Yeah.
When you lose consumers.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of reasons to lose consumers, but some people choose a more affordable consumer over others.
It comes down to, do you want to have a lot of McMansions with barbed wire and everybody else outside starving? I mean, business owners have to understand that there's got to be a balance, and I think many do, and there's a lot of giving, but we can't just get off on this complete right-wing thing that all government regulations is bad, all government participation is bad, so we have to find the right balance. It's a constant thing that's been going on for 50, 100 years.
Yeah.
And, when we get there, we'll know it.
I mean, you already know. I think, even when we talked about Elon Musk and all the value he has accumulated, however he did it, I'm not a person that thinks Rob needs to give me his money, right? But I am a person that needs to have a level playing field to do what I need to do in the same way Rob may have.
I mean, there's measures right now to tax billionaires out of being billionaires. I'm not against it. I don't know why one person needs to be a billionaire.
I don't know why they can't be.
Why what?
Well, they can't be a billionaire.
Well, you can be a billionaire as long as you make $2 billion.
Well, you know what it is though. But it's like a person who runs fast, right? Michael Jordan shouldn't have been allowed to be Michael Jordan.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
When he has the skill. Well, even somebody who understands a game that they didn't create, like finance, right?
Yeah.
If they understand finance the way Michael Jordan knows,
yeah,
or the way Tiger Woods knows golf,
all the power to him.
Yeah, I mean,
all the power to him. But what do you do in terms of if you found ways to do that without paying your share of a share of taxes that goes back to the community and common good? How do you deal with that?
That's a trivial question. Well, it's even my opinion. I'm gonna say something that's probably not popular. That even the IRS is a rich man's game.
Yeah.
Many people don't read the rules. And I'm just being honest.
Yeah. It is. They read the rules and they got their ways to do it.
They understand that game better than the average person, And so, not speaking for all of them, but some of them are doing things legitimately that the rules allow them to do.
I guess,
and for the many people who don't know the rules, it look like it's wrong.
I guess what I'm saying is, I think you got to put society first and then billionaires second.
You got to put the collective first.
That's all I'm saying.
I have no disagreement.
If you once you say society is taking care of healthcare for people that that are working hard every day, they're working 80 hours a week. They got to have health.
Too much, right.
And once you get to that point, and you got a good, solid public education system, you go to school for free. The teachers are well paid. The nurses and doctors are well paid. Once you get to a society first, I don't care how many billionaires there are. But if you're running around with billionaires here and society's struggling, that it's out of balance.
It has to be society first, not to the point of communism. Get mad at me, but it has to be. It has to be society first.
We're not communists.
No, absolutely not. Because I mean, the thing is, I always.
There's the failure of communism. Communism.
Well, I wrote a document before about poverty. And because my logic, resource distribution is a big part of it. I think access to opportunity is a greater part of it. But poverty is more of a mindset than anything, because a person who wins the lottery could very easily end up in a poorhouse in a few months.
That's right.
Because of their spending habits,
right?
And they don't think investment or the value of money.
Well, that's what we talked about earlier.
That's right.
Start to educate yourself.
You gotta educate yourself. So I say that to say redistribution of wealth doesn't solve the issue. Education solves the issue.
Redistribution of wealth does not.
No, absolutely not.
I totally agree with it, because like your example is perfect. I mean, you can have all the wealth in the world and not know what to do with it, and then blow it, and then end up even worse than you were before.
Yeah,
that's not the answer. But I'm not saying take your money out of your pocket, but you've got to go through a government system where we have. I think we need to invest more in government services that provide. And I say government service. Public education is government service.
That's a fact.
The police and fire are government services.
Okay, that's right.
And social service workers will help with the homeless.
That's right.
More than a police officer will. And you want them there.
Yeah.
Do you not want?
Yeah,
would it not be better to have 2 or 3 social service workers walking the street and seeing somebody that's homeless and trying to help them and work with, than you just drive down the street every day and see 5 homeless people there?
Well, they sitting there just collecting that paycheck. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%.
I would rather have.
I agree, because I on the council I made the argument that we have agencies that's receiving money for mental health who weren't actually doing mental health work.
Well, it needs to be spent. You got to get rid of the corruption too. That's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
The corruption in government is a whole other issue. You have to weed that out.
That's right.
Not the way Elon Musk does. The way maybe Harry Truman did.
Yeah,
but you gotta have a system of government that's not corrupt. But once you get that, I think you get in balance. We'll get to our grace and beauty someday.
I think so. Khalid Bey.
Rob Romeo.
Catch you on the next one.
All right.